Hi, how are you?
Good to see you.
Good morning, everybody. Shabbat Shalom, here we are. This is one of the, let's call it the round table days. Reminds me of the Roundheads in England, right? And one thing about the Roundheads' name, nobody names themselves the Roundheads. So it's an attribution of opprobrium. But we're fine with round tables. Okay, very good, very good. Okay, hope everybody is doing well. There is a service this morning at 10:30, which I'm conducting along with Cantor Kathy. So we will try to stop. I'm gonna say this. Please don't laugh. At 10:15. Let's see if I can do it. One thing is for sure, I have to be at the service at 10:30. Okay, so the ovens at Bialy's broke down, so we don't have Bialy's bagels, but we do have Brugger's bagels, which were delivered. And thank you to Ingrid Halpert for volunteering to pick them up. You know, the applause is for signing up, not for doing it. And Eileen and Gary Kammer for sponsoring our bagels this morning. Okay, very good, very good. I have something of an ambitious plan this morning. I'll tell you about it after we do our blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. We praise you, Lord, our God, sovereign of the universe, who sanctifies us through God's commandments, enjoining upon us the obligation to immerse ourselves in words of Torah. Amen. Okay, so the parsha this morning is Korach. Korach beginning in chapter 16. Korach is yet another rebellion in the wilderness. And I want to think hard about the whole question of rebellion and its implications in the Torah, because it is one of the master themes of the Torah itself, and I'd like to try to answer the question, why? Why is it so pervasive? So, rebellions in the past. We don't need to go read them all. But Exodus chapter 15, it's not insignificant that rebellion takes place right after, literally in the same chapter, as the climactic moment of the first 15 chapters of Exodus. And that is the liberation, the crossing of the Red Sea, and then in chapter 15, singing one's gratitude to God. Micha mocha ba'elim Adonai. Who is like you, O Lord, among the mighty? This is one of the high moments, isn't it? When a miracle, a saving miracle has taken place, the people experience it, and they respond, I might say, without thinking about it, spontaneously. Who is like you, O Lord, among the mighty? One of the high points of the entire Tanakh. Then if we move to verse 22 of this very chapter, then Moses caused Israel to set out from the Sea of Reeds. They went into the wilderness. They traveled 3 days and found no water. They came to Marah, but they couldn't drink the water because it was bitter. That's why it was called Marah. And the people grumbled against Moses. What shall we drink? So he cried out to the Lord, and the Lord showed him a piece of wood, and so on. Immediately, 3 minutes later, after Micha Mocha, they are complaining. Now, it's not insignificant as to the cause of their complaint. The cause of their complaint is deprivation. And what kind of deprivation? It's deprivation from nature itself, okay? Drought, or too little sustenance. In other words, they complain because there are obstacles. And obstacles of a variety of kinds, as we'll come to see. This is not trivial. They don't say, I've already had 4 peanut butter sandwiches, and the peanut butter is no longer here. We've run out of peanut butter. That would have been trivial. This is not trivial. In other words, liberation, I'm going to draw a generalization here, which I hope we'll be able to flesh out. Liberation is confronted with regressive forces, things which undermine the move forward. Okay? If we go to our book, Numbers, chapter 10, we could have gone also to the golden calf incident, which we know very, very well. This is another, where is that man Moses? And the rabbis make a big deal out of this. Moses said, I'll be back in 40 days. He left at 6 o'clock on day 1. At 6 o'clock on day 40, they expect him back. In other words, this again is not trivial. The rabbis have a very interesting idea here. Anxiety prevails because what happens next is unknown. So inherent in life is the ubiquity of anxiety. And the people express it, and they rebel. They want to go back to Egypt. They want to have the gods of Egypt over them, where things were much more predictable. Okay, so right away, again, not so many chapters after the liberation, we have a second kind of, and a very serious and comprehensive kind of rebellion. Numbers chapter 10, verse 29. Moses said to Chovab, the son of Ruel, the Midianite, Moses' father-in-law, we're setting out for the place of which the Lord has said, I will give it to you. Come with us, and we will be generous with you, for the Lord has promised to be generous to Israel. In other words, this is the moment at long last that the journey forward is about to recommence. Okay? And they ask Hovab, Ruel. He has 4 different names. We don't know who this guy is. But let's say he's Jethro. It's most likely Jethro, who's been with the people, evidently. No, he wants to go back home. Okay. But the next chapter, chapter 11, let's go back to 10 for a minute. Verse 33 of 10, they march from the mountain of the Lord a distance of 3 days. The ark of the covenant of the Lord traveled in front of them for 3 days' journey to seek out a resting place, and the Lord's cloud kept above them by day as they moved on from the camp. Okay, very good. Underway. When the ark was set out, Moses would say, and we talked about this a little bit last week, a couple of weeks ago, this little couplet of verses, which the rabbis think of as a book of its own, in the interesting sense that, and here Sachs pulls this idea out, I think, quite elegantly, advance, O Lord. In other words, this is the movement of people through history. It's the prophet who deals with the unknown vicissitudes of history. So advance, O Lord, talks about the historical process, the movement of the people through time. Advance, O Lord, may your enemies be scattered, and may your foes flee before you. And when it halted, Sachs suggests that this is now the cessation of the movement through time for the halting in which the priestly element prevails. The prophet is concerned with time, and the priest is concerned with timelessness. So the rabbis may not be arbitrary in putting brackets around this passage. That's what we have here in the Torah scroll itself, as if to suggest this is a statement of the nature of the experience of the Israelites. Time, timelessness, prophet, priest. So the author, assuming the validity of that idea, is really going for something. They're moving forward with their worldview front and center. We deal with the problems of time, and we also are a timeless people, prophet and priest. Oh, we're underway. Chapter 11. The people took to complaining. Seriously? I mean, how can this be? Bitterly, the Lord heard and was incensed. Who can blame God for being incensed? Hey, look at all I did for you. Please, people, go back to the book of Exodus and read what I've done for you and what you've been given. A fire of the Lord broke out against them, ravaging the outskirts of the camp. The people cried out to Moses. Moses prayed to the Lord. Oh dear, not again. Oh my gosh. I mean, footnote. I didn't get a good night's sleep last night. Why are you on me all the time? And, verse 10, Moses heard the people weeping, every clan apart, each person at the entrance of his tent. The Lord was very angry. Moses was distressed, and Moses said to the Lord, why have you dealt ill with your servant? This is a deep existential moment. Here Moses becomes a real person, if he hasn't been up to now, who is confronted, assaulted by all of these criticisms from a people that has really experienced one of the paradigm liberations of all history. He wants out. Okay? So what we have here is a repletion of rebellions just at the moments when liberation has reached a high water mark. Okay. What we have here in our Torah portion, chapter 16, let's read the first couple of verses. Now Korach, the son of Yitzhar, the son of Kahat, the son of Levi, betook himself, along with Datan and Aviram, the sons of Eliab, and On, and so on, together with 250 Israelites, chieftains of the community, chosen in the assembly, men of repute. They combined against Moses. And Aaron had said to them, you've gone too far, for all the community are holy, all of them, and the Lord is in their midst. Why then do you raise yourselves above the Lord's congregation? And skipping to verse 12, Moses sent for Datan and Aviram, more rebels, sons of Eliab, but they said, we will not come. Is it not enough that you brought us from a land flowing with milk and honey, to have us die in the wilderness, that you would also lord it over us? Okay, so here's the dynamic. Movement forward, liberation, the potential for self-government, for being able to run their lives according to their own principles and values. They're on their way. And the narrative is pulling them forward. But periodically, surprisingly often, another regressive force is pulling them back. Let's go to full liberation. No, we don't want to, for whatever reason. The privations of nature, the depredations of other people, whatever they are. So we have here a tension between, let me call it an idea, freedom, self-control, self-government, values, aspirations, all the things that the prophets will sing. And opposed to that are the regressive forces that are real, right? Nature, history, human nature, these are all the regressive forces that the Torah specializes in emphasizing. None of these regressive forces are trivial. They're all real. We don't want to go there. And finally, Moses and Aaron themselves rebel. Shall we, this is what Moses says in Numbers chapter 20, with the water, shall we bring forth water from the rock? Now, there are many possible interpretations of this episode and why it's pivotal in keeping Moses from the promised land. But
that's the way Moses felt.
very good. Illustrations. So even at this final moment, there's rebellion. One of the great interpretations of that by both Nachmanides in the Middle Ages and Jacob Milgram in our day is that the key word here is we. It's God who brings water from the rock. Shall we bring water from the rock? Suggests they are arrogating to themselves the role of God. So the final rebellion from the house of the leader itself, house meaning heart here, from the heart of the leader itself. Okay. So I want to try to illustrate this dynamic. Some of you read last week in the book review of the New York Times a review of Eddie Glaude's new book with the title, America, USA, How Race Shadows the Nation's Anniversaries. Okay? And when I read it, I thought to myself, Torah. This is an illustration in our own country of the dynamic that we've just described. So I'm going to read a couple of passages from this book review. Glaude focuses, as his subtitle puts it, on how race shadows the nation's anniversaries. Anniversaries. We're moving forward. Celebration. The next years are going to be great because of what we have summarized about who we are as a nation. The idea of the role of an anniversary. Glaude focuses, as his subtitle puts it, on how race shadows the nation's anniversaries. Such celebrations, he contends, have never really been the moments for honest self-reflection. They are often advertised to be. Instead, the nation usually, and now the next three words really stunned me. But instead, the nation usually shatters the mirror, refusing to accept what it prefers not to see. American anniversaries are often moments to turn a blind eye to the evils of the past and the present, Glaude writes, to suppress the fact of America's divided soul. Another excerpt. The nation reached, here's some illustrations. The nation reached 100 years old at a crucial moment in the post-Civil War fight over racial equality, the Civil War amendments, with white Northerners ready to give up on Southern Reconstruction. The occasion would help the once warring sections to reunite around a shared commitment to white supremacy. The end of Reconstruction. Hey, but let's celebrate America. Another, the 150th anniversary, 1926, came soon after a resurgent Ku Klux Klan successfully pushed for a restrictive immigration law aimed at keeping America a, quote, Nordic nation, end quote. At the lavishly funded, lightly attended celebrations in Philadelphia, black veterans of World War I were excluded from marching in the opening parade. A writer with the Associated Negro Press wondered, quote, what was in the breast of those black men who fought to make America safe for democracy and on Monday stood on the sidelines forgotten as the Nordic strode by in all his vain pride, end quote. Finally, who is he talking about? A half century later, Glaude is refreshingly honest about the depths of his despair. And he goes on a little bit. He dismisses this year's semi-quincentennial as reaching back, quote, to a storybook America that requires either the banishment of black people from view or the reduction of our role in the country's history, so as to affirm America's ongoing quest to be a more perfect union. Bitterly sarcastic. Okay? Now here's I think what I glean from what Glaude has said. And it's in this sentence. Instead, such celebrations, he contends, have never really been the moments for honest self-reflection. They are often advertised to be. Instead, the nation usually shatters the mirror, refusing to accept what it prefers not to see. Here's my hypothesis. The Torah refuses to shatter the mirror. The Torah is going to tell us in dramatic and continuous detail what holds us back. What are the regressive forces in the human breast, in the historical process? So the rebellions in the wilderness, which are stunning, after this wondrous liberation from Egypt, I mean, shouldn't we at least have a couple of chapters of celebration? Why are we turning right away in the same chapter that they sing Micha Mocha Be'elim Adonai? Because the Torah wants to tell us the truth about the historical process and what holds back aspiration. So I think that over and against the Glaude indictment, what we have just read is not only troubling, but exhilarating. An idea is pulling us forward, and forces against its moving forward are everywhere present. But the idea never dies. So let me just read a little bit, just to pull this out a little bit more, of the Declaration of Independence, which we're going to be reading again in a couple of days. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Okay, a soaring statement with big limitations, right? Because it does not acknowledge what is holding those aspirations back. And what's holding it back are the equality in the marketplace of women, all men are created equal, and the full equality of African Americans. And so, in order to continue to try to overcome the resistance of people to acknowledge the widest possible panorama of human rights, we had the Civil Rights Amendments. The Civil Rights Amendments are an attempt to say regressive forces are not going to hold us back. The Constitution and the Declaration of Independence are living documents, and we're not going to be satisfied until the aspirations are achieved. So we had the 3 Civil Rights Amendments. I'm going to read them. The 13th Amendment, 1865, abolished slavery and involuntary servitude. Not at all taken up in the first years of our republic. The 14th Amendment granted citizenship to all persons born or naturalized in the United States, plus equal, that's the word, equal perfection under the law. And the 15th Amendment, the right to vote. Then we have, in the 19th Amendment, ratified in 1920, the woman's right to vote. And that amendment says there's no denying the right to vote to citizens based on sex. In other words, an idea keeps pulling America forward against strong resistance. We see it in our own day. We see it in this morning's newspaper, the resistance to the full realization of the idea. Here's hypothesis number 2. What is the essence of the narrative, the forward-moving narrative of the Torah? God is a liberator, and God wants to pull us forward to full liberation. And I'm going to suggest that among the things we might think God is, one of them is God is an idea. When God is pulling us forward, this is a dramatization of the idea that there is an aspiration that is constantly pulling us toward realization, over and against the currents that take us back. I remember the last line of The Great Gatsby. How does it go? I'm sorry? What? Right. Well, how does it start? Phooey. It's a bunch of bees. But we bear on boats against the current, ceaselessly borne back into the past. That's that last line. The forces that pull us back, the regressive forces, are extremely strong. So I want to suggest that the narrative that we're reading can be understood literally, and the God who is at work here can be understood literally. The prayer book understands it literally. I want to suggest that it's an idea. The idea of perfectibility that is drawing us forward. Let me suggest that in this sense, this story is poetry. Heschel says that God is the poetry of religion. I like that very, very much. I'm going to read to you a definition of poetry by Louise Glick. It's my favorite definition. There is, she says, a soul in me. It is asking to be given its body.
Say it again, please.
There's a soul in me. It is asking to be given its body. It wants to be embodied. And the words of a poem are the embodiment of the yearning of the soul. And if you think of the idea of moving forward to a promised land as the soul of the Torah, the stories are its embodiment, trying to make palpable, to make real, to make it not abstract. That's what poetry tries to do, to give it the emotional valence it deserves. So I think that what we're confronted with here, what we're dealing with in these stories, is the dialectic, I might say, the push and the pull. The push, the pull toward the idea, and the pull back in a variety of ways. Well, let's just take one example. One of the goals of these whole stories is to get to the promised land. Oh, gosh. We're here. Let's celebrate. That's what they do. Chapter 5 of the book of Joshua. Celebrate the first Passover since the Exodus and circumcise their children. We're here. We can resume real life again. No. Once you get to the promised land, there is still a major, maybe even a larger question. What's the promise of the promised land? It's not enough just to resume what you've done, just to think the work is finished because we've arrived. We haven't arrived. We've just provided one more condition for the possibility of arriving. When did we arrive? Not yet. We're not here yet. And this is why the Tanakh, the last 4 books of the Tanakh, go in a circle. Ezra, Nehemiah, 1st and 2nd Chronicles. Ezra begins just where 2nd Chronicles ends. You get to 2nd Chronicles, now you're at the end. What's next? Let's look into the future. What's next? No. Let's go back and read this story all over again, because this is an ongoing story. We don't need more story. We have everything everything else is a footnote to this massive master narrative. You think I've overstated it? That's why the Torah is really quite astonishing. For Glaub, America shatters the mirror. We don't look at ourselves. Let's celebrate. Let's have a wrestling match on the White House lawn. Strength, right? Manliness, virility. The Torah doesn't shatter the mirror, which I think is its most heroic accomplishment. Jack?
So Rabbi Sachs has a commentary on this parsha where he argues that Korach is the first populace, because parts of the populace narrative are like the elites have stolen this golden era from us, we have to destroy the social order to take it back. And that obviously applies politically because Trumpism is also kind of a regressive populism. And I think what's so dangerous about populism and kind of Korach's philosophy is it has the illusion of pulling us forward, but really it's taking us back.
And thank you for saying that. And we have to ask about the story of Korach, just what is at stake there, because they are attacking Moses and attacking Aaron. Who made you the big bosses? And they have a point, don't they? Because, as we've read, you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Not you shall be servants of the leader and followers of the leader's brother. You are all the people are holy, we read somewhere in the book of Numbers. Moses even says that. Would all the people be prophets? So what about the rebellion of Korach and Datan and Aviram over and against this idea? That's what I want to look at now. How does this parsha fit into the structure that I've tried to lay out? So, chapter 16. Now Korach, the son of Itzhar, Okay, Yitzhar is one of the grandchildren, I think, of Levi. Okay, so this is a guy that has some yichus. He has some authority from his ancestry. Now Korach, the son of Yitzhar, the son of Kahat, the son of Levi, betook himself along with Datan and Aviram, the sons of Eliav, and On, the son of Pelet, descendants of Reuben. Oh my gosh. Not only is Korach from that tribe of Levi, and therefore potentially one of the priests, but the son of Reuben, the descendants of Reuben was firstborn. There's some rights of primogeniture of the firstborn at stake as well. To rise, verse 2, up against Moses together with 250 Israelites, chieftains of the community, chosen in the assembly, men of repute. They combined against Moses and Aaron and said to them, "You've gone too far." Okay? So we could see this as another moment of resistance against the leadership of Moses and Aaron, or we could see it as a valid attack on individuals who arrogate to themselves primacy. You have gone too far, for all the community are holy. Korach is right. God has said that. All of them, and the Lord is in their midst. Why then do you raise yourself above the Lord's congregation? The key Hebrew word here is titnasu, nasa, to lift up, in the reflexive sense. Lift yourselves up. Why do you lift yourselves up against the people? And then to verse 12 again. Moses sent for Datan and Aviram. They're also rebels, sons of Eliav. But they said, "We will not come. Is it not enough that you brought us from a land flowing with milk and honey to have us die in the wilderness? That you would lord over us?" And here the verb tistarer from sarar is given twice in the reflexive. Ki tistarer aleinu, you would lord over us. Gam histarer. So when the verb is doubled, it's intensified. Not only are you trying to lord over us, you are determined to lord over us. So the question is Moses the right leader? Or is Moses the wrong leader? Not so much because it's Moses, but because it's only one person who is arrogating to himself too much power. Or to put it in terms of the conversation we've been having, is he the right person for the role of pushing the people forward? Is he committed to the idea that God is leading the people? And if he is pushing it forward for that reason, then he is the right leader. If he isn't, then it's just been a power play. So there's something deeply at stake in Moses' leadership. We have to understand what kind of leader he is. Yeah, Mike?
So I'm wrestling with the set up a sort of an ideal,
Of?
an idea.
Okay,
or a
an idea.
vision,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And which seems to me to be independent of time,
Mm-hmm.
with the notion of forward and backward, which are all about time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm struggling with it enough that I'm not even sure I can articulate it. The definition of forward and reverse seems almost independent of the idea journey is, underlining the concept of forward and reverse. That I don't think is necessarily, I don't necessarily think it falls out of the vision.
You don't think it follows from the vision?
In other words, maybe what I'm trying to say is, where we think we are right now is only our own perception. And the vision that we experience God leading us to is partly a function of where we think we are.
Yeah, right.
And somebody else's idea of forward and reverse is not, I don't know how to reconcile those.
Well, look, okay, so as I understand you, Mike, you're making a distinction of kind between the forward and reverse process, which is in time, and the idea, which is out of time. Okay, so let me suggest this, that here I'm going to refer to games. And games are very serious things when you think about their structure. So by bringing games in, I don't mean to trivialize this. So what is the game of chess that you have to capture the king? That's the goal. That's the stipulated goal of that game. Outside the game, that goal makes no sense. But once you develop a game, you have a goal, and then you know which moves move us closer to the goal and which moves move us from the goal. So the goal is not abstract. It's context specific. What's the goal of America? That all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Hey, that's grand. That doesn't get us to the goal. If that's what we really mean, we have to ask ourselves, is the word men sufficient? So the goal is both mediated by steps toward, but also some reflection that requires refining the goal. But we know what to refine because we've stipulated the goal. Henry VIII in England's goal was to magnify the power of the king. And therefore, given that goal, decapitating some queens and divorcing them were steps toward the realization of that goal. In the game of chess, there's a goal. And given that goal, we can tell which moves move us toward it and which moves against. If I were playing chess with somebody who knows how to play chess and I made a move, that person would say to himself, this guy doesn't know how to get there. So both exist in time. A people, a game, stipulates, this is stipulation, the goal. The divine right of kings game does not say that all people are created equal. Matter of fact, the ancient Greeks had a word for non-Greeks, barbarians. And barbarian comes from the sound barbar, which is how sheep bleat. So for them, there were human beings, and there were non- or subhuman beings. That was the game they were playing. And philosophy, of course, dialectic. Let's spend a lot of time in the marketplace thinking about what is piety, what is justice. And that's an elitist activity. I hate to say it, but so it depends on what game you're playing. And the game that's being played here is, you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy people, and therefore care for the widow, the orphan, and the stranger. And one of the ways of caring for the stranger, against which I have a lot of resistance. The stranger is threatening. Our impulse is to resist the stranger. Let me put it in biblical terms. Loving the stranger is the promised land. Resisting is Egypt. I want to go back there because the stranger. So what are we going to do about this? If our goal is all human beings are made in the image of God, well, the Torah says you shall love the stranger. Good for the Torah. I mean, really? Really? Because you were strangers in the land of Egypt. You already know what it's like to be a stranger. How about a little empathy, folks? How about reflecting on your experience? I'm not trying to be abstract here, love the stranger. I'm trying to get you to overcome your resistance. I see you're resistant. I get it. The author gets it. Who knows human nature better than the author of these stories? So let's see if I can get you to, because we're all made in the image of God. That's the promised land. It's not the promised land in space and time. It's the promised land of the ideal. That's where we want to live, isn't it? We want to live in the best possible way we can. That needs to be defined. And the Torah is trying to define it. Let me see if I can find it quickly. I'm looking for a passage in Isaiah, which is really quite glorious. Gee, I don't know. Isaiah, somewhere around 19. Here it is. Isaiah 19, verse 24. In that day, Israel shall be a third party with Egypt and Assyria as a blessing on earth. For the Lord of hosts will bless them, saying, Blessed be my people, Egypt, my handiwork, Assyria, my very own Israel. Good golly, you want to weep at that, don't you? That the biblical author has the nerve, the courage to say, finally, the Egyptians are my people. The Assyrians are my people. You know what, folks? I love the Jewish people, but I love everybody. Well, that's easy for you to say, God. Yeah. But these texts are instruments in trying to get us there. When Amos screams against the people for neglecting the widow, the orphan, and the stranger. Let justice well down as waters and righteousness as a mighty stream. Not, if I'm writing that, I'd say, let justice well down as some raindrops and righteousness like a trickling river. Trickling river, I can sit by a trickling river all day long. A mighty stream I've got to be a little afraid of because it's going somewhere. And it wants to take me with it. Jim?
Well, the problem with Torah and a lot of rebellions are they're strictly criticism of the status quo. They don't offer anything better. Korah has his own agenda. He wants to be what he's criticizing Moses of. And it doesn't get anywhere. And the most recent example is Cuba, where, yeah, Batista was a bad situation, but Castro rallied the people to make him in charge, which made everything even worse. So, rebellion is a many-faceted thing, and from what I've observed, just criticizing the status quo doesn't help anything. It doesn't move it forward. It actually moves it back. So if Korah is really well-intended, which I doubt,
Well, and I think we can discover what's right. I think the Torah has a view of Moses, which is not that he's chosen to be the boss, period. He's chosen to be a boss for a very good reason. And let's try to explore that a little bit. A couple of passages. I'm going to look at the story of the judge Gideon in chapter 8 of the book of Judges. Let's see if I have that right. So Gideon is a judge. What is a judge? A judge here, there's only one judge in the book of Judges who actually judges things, and that's Deborah. The other judges are not judges in the colloquial sense. They are leaders who are called to deal with an emergency. They deal with the emergency. If they're successful and peace is restored, they leave the scene. So, Judges chapter 8, verse 16. Then he asked Zebach and Zalmunna, those men you killed at Tabor, what were they like? They looked just like you, they replied, like sons of a king. They were my brothers, he declared, the sons of my mother. As the Lord lives, if you had spared them, I would not kill you, and so on and so on. And so with this, verse 22, the men of Israel said to Gideon, rule over us. Rule over us. That is, let's establish a hierarchy. We are under you. That, I take it, is Korach's view of leadership. Leadership, as we said here, verse 13 of chapter 16, is it not enough that you brought us from a land flowing with milk and honey to have us die in the wilderness, that you would also lord it over us? Okay. Or verse 3, you have gone too far, for all the community is holy, all of them. Why then do you raise yourself above the Lord's congregation? Korach's view of leadership is hierarchy. And it's the self-importance of the ruler, of the one who leads. Raise yourself, arrogate to yourself. Here's Gideon, back to Judges chapter 8. Then the men of Israel said to Gideon, rule over us, Mashal Banu, you and your son and your grandson as well. Look, as long as we want you to rule over us, we'd like some continuity and predictability. So let's have a monarchy, an inheritable monarchy. Okay? Now we've solved the problem of the unknown. But Gideon replied, I will not rule over you myself, nor shall my son rule over you. Here it is. The Lord alone shall rule over you. Okay? So, for Korach, who's the true leader? Well, don't want to be unfair to Korach, but at least part of his answer is a human being who rules hierarchically over others. The fairness to Korach is he's probably a person of faith as well. He just has a view of rulership. Gideon's view is not hierarchy, it's service. The Lord shall rule over you, and leaders will serve the Lord. Or in my translation, serve the idea that God represents. The God of all people, universality. The God who made human beings in God's image. The God of every individual's sanctity. Let's look at Numbers chapter 12. We read this last week. So I'm going to start at the beginning of 12. So when they were in Chazerot, Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Cushite woman he had married. He married a Cushite woman. They said, has the Lord spoken only through Moses? Has he not spoken through us as well? And the Lord heard it. Well, so this is the same question. does Moses deserve to be? By what right does he deserve to be sole leader? Now, Moses was a very humble man. This is so crucial. Moses is not only anav, humble, he's anav ma'od. See, if I'm writing this passage, I'm gonna write, Moses was humble. I'm going to go right by it. What does that mean? But very humble? What does that mean? So sometimes we think of humility as self-abasement. I'm nothing. I see all my flaws and so on and so on. But Moses is the greatest leader of the Bible. Moses is not a shrinking violet. So that the conventional understanding or a conventional understanding of humility is not Moses' attribute. What is it? He serves an idea. Moses is a servant. Moses recognizes not that I'm nothing, but that I serve something huge. And over and against that aspiration, who am I? I can only serve it. I cannot stand in its place. Right? So, and what happens here? Moses, verse 3, very humble man, more so than the other man on earth. Suddenly the Lord called Moses. By the way, this is a parallel to the last line of the Torah. None arose in Israel like Moses. Why? Well, gosh, he's the main protagonist in the story, makes it happen. No. Moses serves an idea, big deal, over and against massive resistance, whoever lived. By the way, if the 5 books of Moses is equal to Moses, this is Moses down through time, Moses' goal is still our goal. Moses lives. And that's why none can ever arise again like Moses. You got the whole thing. This is it. The 5 books of Moses. All the rest is commentary. I didn't make that up. So let's go on a little bit. Suddenly the Lord called to Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, come out, you 3, to the tent of meeting. So the 3 of them went out. The Lord came down in a pillar, stopped at the entrance of the tent, called out, Aaron and Miriam. The 2 of them came forward. And he said, hear these my words. When a prophet of the Lord arises among you. Okay, so we have a 3-decker universe of this chapter. There's all of us. That's level 1. Level 2, prophets. Level 3, Moses. Moses is a prophet. So we need a definition of prophecy in order to distinguish level 2 and level 3. When a prophet hear my words, where are we? In verse 6. Arise and I make myself known to him in a vision. I speak with him in a dream. Okay? Well, we know. I mean, I have a dream, and I say to somebody the next morning, I had a dream. And, tell me about it. And I tell them about it. Well, by that time, interpretation is setting in. And I'm going to highlight one thing and not another. And it's a dream when I got a D on an English exam in the 11th grade. I'm going to soften that down a little bit. I'm ashamed of that. By the way, it's true. It was on Shelley's Ozymandias, one of my favorite poems. I mean, I got a lot of A's in high school. This is what I remember. Isn't it true? That's the poignant one. So, dreams have 2 components. The dream itself, which is sent to me, I might say, and how I understand it, how I interpret it. So the dream doesn't come unmediated. It's mediated by idiosyncrasies, by preferences, by emphasis. When a prophet of the Lord arises among you, I make myself known to him in a vision. I speak with him in a dream. Not so my servant Moses. He is trusted throughout my household. With him I speak mouth to mouth, plainly, and not in riddles, not in the imagery of the prophets. And he beholds the likeness of the Lord. Oh, that's bold. How then did you not shrink from speaking against my servant Moses? Which is exactly what could be transferred from chapter 12 to chapter 16. Moses is the one who has the word. And he doesn't say, everybody gather around me. I have the word. You guys don't. No. I'm serving the word. That's what makes me humble. I know my station in life. And that's where Korach got it wrong. He thinks that leadership is a matter of self-elevation over others. Really, leadership is the most, it's I was going to say denial. No, that's too strong. It's really self-limitation. That's what it is. It's self-limitation to make room for God's grand plan, which he is going to promote. So that's where Korach gets it wrong. Two different kinds of leadership. Vivian?
I'm stuck on this story of God speaking to Aaron and Miriam.
Yes.
God says to them directly, I only speak to prophets in visions. Moses is the only one I speak to directly.
Yes.
I'm telling you that directly.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, that's great. That's great. Ah. All right, let's make a promise. We will never read Numbers 12 again. No, it's a good point. It's a good point. And you know, if I'm thinking about the author of just what you've reiterated, I could imagine the author saying, I'm involved in a contradiction here. I only speak directly to Moses. That's my program. But I'm going to say it directly to Moses and Aaron. How can I get away with that? And if I'm the author, here's how I comfort myself. I got to do it. I just, what I want to say is much more important than the contradiction into which I have ignominiously fallen. Don't you think so? Because, the author wants to make a crystal clear statement, and he wants to make it over and against one of our themes, resistance. So the author is stuck, don't you think? Yeah. Now, a bad author would try to wiggle out of it. I think a good author would say, what else could I do? I have to make a statement in public to make my point that I only make statements to Moses. He does send stuff to the prophets, but it's mediated. Yeah, no, that is right. Very good, very good. It's kind of literary license in a way. I need to get something across. How can I do it?
We also concluded a couple weeks ago that according to the Torah, we need to have equality and liberty. We can't have both of them at the same time. And it's kind of like Jefferson arguing for and against democracy in different writings of his.
Right. Yeah, order and liberty, freedom and justice. These are things that are hard to get at the same time. Sure, and this is part of the dialectic of this discussion about society, which is primary, order or liberty. Liberty, this famous essay by, what's his name? Two Types of Liberty. Help me. Isaiah Berlin. Freedom to, and freedom from. Freedom from is negative liberty. so nobody can stand in my way, just to summarize it. But freedom, too, means to live according to our own rules, which can then become oppressive and limit freedom. So this is another way of saying that there is a tension between freedom and order. And we want both, but in what combination, and so on. That's in a way where rights come in, and so on. We're going to be stopping in a second. I did want to read something here from Sachs. So this is from his chapter on Korach, and he says at the end, in Judaism, leadership is not about popularity. If a scholar is loved by the people of his town, it's not because he is gifted, but because he fails to rebuke them in matters of heaven. Nor is a true leader eager for the job. Almost without exception, the great leaders of the Tanakh were reluctant to assume the mantle of leadership. Rambam Gamliel summed it up when he said to two sages he wanted to appoint to office, do you imagine I'm offering you rulership? I'm offering you avdut, the chance to serve. Okay, so that's Moses, and I think that this chapter plays a pivotal role in clarifying both the goal. The goal is to serve God, or in the language I've been using, to serve the idea, to serve the ideal. And along the way, there are going to be pitfalls and impediments and obstacles. And we just have to try to sally forward and move on and try to do it. And really, that's the call to America at this point of its 250th anniversary, isn't it? I mean, we have the founding, soaring aspirations of our basic documents. But look at the impediments. I mean, I'll just, I mean, you know where I am politically, but I'm not going to be specific here, but I am stunned in the last couple of years how strong the impediments are, how strong the resistance is to the ideals of America. I mean, fear sells much easier than hope, doesn't it? And the 5 books of Moses really are about the fears that we have, some of them very, very basic and fundamental, and how hard it is for hope to survive, to maintain itself. But the Torah continues to push forward, doesn't it? We do get to the promised land. And then we're asked, what is the promise of the promised land? Here comes the prophets to tell us what the promise is. Thank God for the prophets, they solved the problem. No. It keeps going. It is really a dialectic, isn't it? I think of a musical example. Classical music ends on the tonic, typically. It ends at a home key. Great, how great. A Schubert sonata wanders, it roams away from home, different keys, comes home. Once you get Schoenberg and the Second Vienna School, home disappears. There is no home key in serial music. Every one of the 12 notes has equal status and value. In a certain way, when did these guys rise up? Late 19th, early 20th century. When chaos was looming in Europe, wasn't it? So you wonder whether or not art forms, in terms of aspiration and, in a way, the denial of aspiration or the frustration, looms art as a mirror of society in a lot of ways. All right, service at 10:30. Shabbat shalom.
I think this Tuesday. We are going to whatever Thank
And if you didn't understand facts, you get in big trouble. I was, yeah. Um, 68, yeah, not much. Yes. Gucci and Dow team in the Michelin rubber plantation.
Michelin had
Vietnam is a French colony. There's a lot of synthetic.
It's probably mixtures.
It's a composite. Yeah.
so
They're much harder.
we go there.
No. Stop. No. kitchen door, Reese? Reese, who was at the kitchen door? Okay. Did they drop off? Did they drop off for both situations?
I don't know, the sheriff back there.
Okay.